Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the issue 9 launch of Cherry Tree, a national journal at Washington College. I'm joined by some of our fabulous contributors, not all of our fabulous contributors, we can only have a few for this party. And I'm really, really glad to be joined by them and to hear them read from the journal. We're going to be peppering the chat with their websites, links to buy their books and support them. The links will take you to the Ivy, which is Baltimore's most fabulous independent bookstore. We actually have many indie bookstores in Baltimore, but it is one of the most fabulous bookstores in America and definitely in Baltimore. So please feel free to support indie bookstores as well. This is being recorded. Feel free to respond in the chat though, and say how you're liking someone's piece. I mean, if you don't like it, you can keep those comments to yourself, but you're going to love everything tonight. I'm James Allen Hall. I am the editor of Cherry Tree. We're also joined by some of our we're also joined by some of our genre editors, our managing editor, Amber Talianisich, our associate editor, Roy Kesey, poetry editor, Elise Benzel, creative nonfiction editor, Sophia Abdulrahman. And there are a lot of Cancers in this room, a lot of Pisces and Libras as well. So feel free to put your astrological sun, rising, moon signs in the chat as well. Woohoo! So yeah, there's some Geminis as well. I always love to know like how a community forms and if there's any sort of congruence with the astrology. I forgot to say that Lindsay Lusby is joining us also. Lindsay is one of our senior readers in poetry. She also used to be the managing editor of Cherry Tree, and she laid out the issue in InDesign. So this journal literally would not have existed ever without Lindsay. She's the driving force behind the founding of it as well. So I'm going to start us off by introducing, these are brief introductions, but I'll introduce each reader as we go. And our first one, I am so pleased to welcome Alison Hawthorne Deming, who is a Regents Professor Emerita at the University of Arizona. She is the recipient of a Guggenheim Fellowship, a Stegner Fellowship, and NEA Fellowships, and the author of 12 books of poetry and nonfiction, most recently A Woven World on fashion, fishermen, and the sardine dress. Take it away, Alison.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here with all of you. Happy to be in this club this afternoon and evening. So I'm just going to jump right in to read these poems that are in the issue, this gorgeous issue. Thank you to all the laborers who made it happen. The first poem set here in Tucson in my backyard, and it is called The Buck. The bighorn fire came within a mile of my house, so it owned me for several weeks. The smoke stopped my daily walks and kept windows closed day and night. Go bag ready, I watched the mountains, fireline brilliant orange against char of night, as the blaze snaked along the ridge in its advance, closer and closer, then farther and farther, as crews turned the fire, driving it away from our homes. The buck made his way from Doug firs to townhomes, over 4-foot brick wall to my bird bath. I caught him on a field cam after my Swiss chard and lettuce were chomped to the nubs, and I couldn't picture what creature could wreak such damage. But when I imagined the cost for him to grow, the 6-point rack that shone in the photo like branches of a moonlit tree, when I imagined the thorny scrub he'd fed on as he fled his range, and then his pleasure finding tender green leaves new to his palate, soft on his lips, yielding to blunt teeth, I felt the fool. No, criminal for thinking him the thief when our kind has stolen nearly everything from the animal world. Thanks. The second poem is set on an airplane, the strange and powerful things that can happen between strangers. The bracelet. His parents had spent 6 years in Bergen-Belsen, father a baker each night, stuffing a loaf in each pant leg, bringing it to the barracks. He played violin for Nazi dancers. Mother sewed their uniforms. One day, an officer threw her into a machine that took off her wedding band finger. The man who sat beside him had a photo of his mother, had seen a photo of his mother holding him when he was a baby, that finger missing. Women, other prisoners, mended the wound, stitching the gap where the finger had been. Stranger to stranger, the story unwound like a spool of thread. The repair was ragged, but she left the scar that way. Before she'd been taken to the camp, she'd given a Gentile friend 3 treasures, a gold bracelet, links too heavy to wear. It must have weighed 3 or 4 pounds, he said, a way to save the wealth, plus a ring and some rose gold watch that hung on a necklace. This was 1939. 6 years later, they were liberated. One man weighed 60 pounds. When the baker ran up to embrace the British liberator, the soldier said he could barely feel the man in his arms. So near had he come to being a skeleton. His parents returned to their village, found the Gentile woman. She gave back the bracelet and the ring. The necklace with pendant watch she'd had to sell for food. No recrimination in my seatmate's voice, who told me he kept the bracelet in a safe deposit box, as I have kept his story in these broken lines to make of them something almost whole.
Thank you so much, Alison. That was really an honor to hear you read. I know we've all followed your work and loved it. And it was just, yeah, I have goosebumps. That almost at the end of the poem does so much work. And if people haven't seen the poem on the page, there's caesuras throughout. So the form of it it's just also really breathtaking, the way you control all of that together. It's masterful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, James.
Mwah. Next up to the mic is Prince Bush, who is a poet from Nashville, Tennessee, with poems in Black Warrior Review, The Journal, Pink, and others. A student at Iowa Writers Workshop for Poetry. He volunteers as a poetry reader for Poetry Northwest. I've been following Prince's poems through Twitter and in journals for the past few years. And I am so, so, so happy that you are in Cherry Tree this issue, and welcome to the mic. It is yours.
Thank you so much. I love Cherry Tree, and thank you everyone for attending today. At the end of us, I bag your groceries. You ask for one less bag to save plastic. We laugh in hopelessness. At your request, I use that bag to double bag something heavy. We don't know what it is. I'm sure you'll find use for it, I joke. We keep laughing. I'm full-time. You're a regular. We both do not commute here, but try to use less plastic bags, laughing, sweating. We agree they should turn the heat down without defining they, or whether we mean the inside or outside. To children who ask, is that a boy or a girl? And parents who don't ask that, and parents who answer through jeopardy and say who was or who is, and mostly what is, what was. And parents who hit their children to apologize for me. And the humidity and dust mites among the mold makes it thunder and rain inside. Or people who aren't parents yet look at me and say, ma'am, I mean sir, and sir, I mean ma'am, mustache, I mean voice. And grandparents who keep their grandkids under umbrellas with their heads down to avoid the umbrella. And those who refer to that age as two come out whole through the shredder. And to Frank, in whose cave I'm generous instead of free. And back to those children I have never had custody for. I create a shadow blocking the sun. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for everything you create, because it creates space for others, Prince. Thank you so much. Next up is Claire Bateman, who is the author of 8 collections of poetry, prose poetry, flash fiction, most recently Scape from New Issues, with another collection, Wonders of the Invisible World, forthcoming from 42 Miles Press. She has received 2 Pushcart Awards and an NEA grant. And we're going to put some links in the chat to her work. She also creates visual art. Some of her work can be seen, and there'll be links in the chat where you can see that visual art as well. Please welcome Claire Bateman to the mic.
Thank you. And thank you so much, James, Sarah, Amber. It's really fantastic to be part of this community and this publication, which I've really been devouring. I think this is just under 7 minutes, so I'll just read. I'm pretty fast talker anyhow, so. Okay, this is science fiction. It's in the voice of a woman who works for a time travel company, and that's all you need to know. A day's work. I've been with Time Jaunt ever since they recruited me right out of grad school 20 years ago, and by now I can't imagine working anywhere else. My first position was in the therapy branch, dealing with issues such as Weltanschauung contagion, which occurs when a client returns from the past saturated with an outmoded worldview, Ptolemaic cosmology, for example. Phantom absence syndrome, in which a traveler is convinced they left part of their soul in some previous century. And constriction nostalgia, a painful paradoxical longing for the extinct sensation of life without loopbacks. I also ran rehab groups for clients facing bankruptcy from their addiction to visiting various religions' miraculous events, as well as for their inverse soul twins haunting history's horrors, like pilgrims collecting anti-epiphanies. It's true that as you wander through the ages, you see inexplicable wonders and unendurable suffering. Just like right now, of course, though it seems to pack more of an emotional wallop when encountered through chronotourism. After a decade of these disorders, I was restless for change, so I applied for a lateral transfer. Now I'm a destination events director, managing arrangements for clients who want to book a wall of Jericho bar mitzvah, a Renaissance wedding, a Viking-style burial for a loved one, etc. As always, with travelers perceptible only to each other, not to the locals, I coordinate with the site facilitator teams that accompany excursions to forestall in-group brawls and scuffles. Certain clients tend to flaunt a what happens in the past stays in the past kind of attitude. And when you consider high blood alcohol levels and the pressure cooker nature of those milestone family events, the need for these proverbial burly escorts is self-evident. For the required outreach component of my job, I'm the company point person for the Eagle Scout quest. Teens invisibly shadow pioneers and frontiersmen to acquire ancient skills, though farriery and blacksmithing are obsolete now, and why learn tracking when there's no more wilderness? The Davy Crockett part of the package is a strictly censored experience, omitting episodes such as Crockett's savage bear slaying exploits, over 1,000 way to find fat bear meat, as he infamously boasted. And every Earth Day, I set up the itinerary for the government-funded nationwide 6th grade field trip to pre-colonial North America, so the next generation can behold living animals as well as actual trees, pristine water, and clean, uncluttered sky. But mostly the kids seem numb and vacuous, fingers twitching spasmodically, lost without their digital devices. Though you would assume that those of us in the entertainment venues, videographers, costume designers, and so on, would be the cheeriest, it's our linguists and philologists who behave as though history is a voluptuous cake they've been assigned to eat their way through with golden forks. Or you could say that they're like manic lepidopterists wielding their nets to capture minuscule instances of lexical shift. Our culinary workers, on the other hand, are always irritable about the logistics of transporting site-specific authentic meals cooked to our contemporary health standards. Wherever you go on our hallways or on location, you glimpse them only through clouds of dry ice, but you can hear them muttering the choicest profanities of the ages. New staffers are constantly debating the meaning of history. Some of them even have a motto, no point, no plot, while others argue that there must be some calculable teleological mechanism. But the rest of us don't see much difference between those two positions, just like underlining everything in a book is no different than leaving the entire text unmarked. And as for the question of free will, we've witnessed firsthand how actions and motivations are entangled across millennia. If such a thing exists, it must be very different from the self-contained moral mechanism of popular imagination. That's why no one who's been here for more than a few years thinks much in narrative terms anymore. We feel claustrophobic watching movies or reading novels with their constricted perspectives. And because we spend our social hours together, we're viewed as clannish, even elitist. But the truth is that we're at ease with each other's conversational elisions, and we never torment each other with questions like, how was your day? Or what are you doing this summer? Since a day can be overlain with many midnights, and a summer can include weeks of skating through a long vanished Amsterdam December. We've all learned the hard way that an overstay in our own chronolocation causes an intense bodily agitation we call the Krollos. So while in one sense we're the freest of humans because of the unlimited travel perk, in another we're the most constrained. We can't maintain equilibrium without frequently dipping into the time stream, though our clients don't experience this because not even the wealthiest of them could afford our level of exposure. We've even established sleep nooks at various nodes. I find it soothing to envision history as a honeycomb of secret stations, each climate controlled to allow in just the right amount of chill while filtering out local pathogens. The Little Ice Age is the most popular, so refreshing compared to our own vastly overheated era. It's a good thing we have our own retirement community. After a full career here, no one could handle the social rhythms of a normal residential setup. But instead of holding forth with fantastic field anecdotes, our retirees are uncannily silent, which we always remark on after time jaunt reunions. Does frequent prolonged immersion in the time stream cause dissociation and aphasia so that in the wordless elders we're beholding what will become? We speculate about this in anxious whispers, but no one ever quits. We'll take a horribly constricted future for what we have now. With all those openings and passageways, those crannies and corners, the past is nothing less than infinite. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Because I was muted and because I wanted to honor the audio of your reading, you couldn't hear me poetry mooing throughout the entire which I do with your poems too. And I think that literature is the cure for that outdated worldview that you quoted at the beginning of your piece. Thank you so much for giving us a little shade there too. I really appreciate that. And next up is Maria S. Picone, who is a queer Korean American adoptee. Her debut chapbook, Adoptee Song, will be released in late 2022. Is it already out, Maria?
It is not. It's making its way out in the world. Yes.
Paper and publishing being what they are, right? So I just wanted to ask. She won the 2020 Cream City Review Summer Poetry Prize and grants from Kenyon Review, Grub Street, the Juniper Institute, and elsewhere. She is Chestnut Review's managing editor. Please welcome Maria S. Picone.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is Poem for the In/Visibility of the Asian in Me. To you, I am always making things Asian. There I go again, Asianifying up this shit like a child, stretching the limits of their Asianizing eyes. You think Picone is a white husband's hand clasped over my real name, which is hanging out with shoes off in lounging silk tied like tiger in the year I was made. In your view, I am always Asian me. I am always making religion from taking tea. I was born with a piece of bread in my mouth. My comfort food is a bowl of pure washed rice. You are always making me Asian when convenient. Of course, for you. You make Asian me a knelt down centerpiece, immature little anime girl getting head pats for good deeds. You think Picone is a way to lift my hand up to the white man's burden and climb upon his backpack to a privileged moon. Oh, thankless years of being made a bit more white, a bit more. White is the pearls of the Joy Luck Club. White is the meat of the abalone. White is the hair of the haimyo. White is the tomb of the diver. Perhaps, if you'll indulge me, my actions are not so divergent from yours. Perhaps you are always making Asian me to sop the guilt in your bowl. Tell me when you've had enough. Perhaps you'd like to observe the way I crush one thread of saffron for Chopino. Or am I always making Asian dishes in your imaginized my kitchen? Tell me, under your best bred gaze, what type of body is made, is held back? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. Your poem, when it came through, all the readers were like, this has to go in shade. And it was the first thing we took for literary shade, actually. Cherry Tree remains one of the only journals, if not the only journal, to publish literary shade, where, I mean, if there's a cherry tree, there's got to be some shade, right? So we enjoy publishing work that has some discourse with and some corrective towards hateful, oppressive institutions, particularly from voices from historically resilient communities. So I just wanted to highlight that. And maybe now's not also a bad time for Amber to put in the chat again our discount code, because some new folks have joined us too. So we'd be honored if you subscribe to Cherry Tree, and we have a 50% off discount going for new and extended subscriptions. Next up to the microphone is Marreim Krollos, whose collection Big City is published by Fiction Collective 2, FC2. Her novella Stan is published by Meekling Press. Her volume Sermons is published by VA Press. She currently works at the Fine Arts Center in South Carolina. Marreim, please take it away.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so my story is a bit longer. It is a long story separated in vignettes about how these 5 people's lives are connected. And so I have decided to just read the first and last vignette. So you're not going to really get a sense of how it works, but I think for the sake of time, it'll be better. Okay, so both vignettes that begin and end are one person, are one of these voices. And yeah, it's just long. It's a long story. But I do, before I start reading, I do want to thank you. I actually don't like this story, but somehow seeing what you guys have done with it, I kind of like it a little bit more. Like I really thought you did an amazing job with how it's set up. So thank you. Okay, so first vignette. Her body doesn't need anyone else's body. Her body needs someone else's face. Her body is split in half. When she is turned on her side, her body falls on itself. Her 2 arms find each other. Her 2 hands with identical fingers interlock. 2 breasts collapse on each other. 1 leg reclines on top of the other. The split in her center has 2 sides, so the 2 sides can meet, can be pressed into each other. Her face is all that is still alone. Her eyes stare out, unable to see each other. Her nose lies singular. 1 chin, 1 forehead, 1 tongue. Even the 2 lips of her slightly open mouth stand next to each other, vertically like strangers waiting in line. Her face cannot keep itself company. Her nose cannot touch another nose unless there's another nose to touch it. Her eyes cannot see other eyes unless she is looking at someone else's eyes. Her face makes her want something for the rest of her body, her doubled body. All of this is going to happen because she has a face. And the last vignette is she fell in love with Eddie the day he protected her. They were all at a bar after work, or could have been, and a drunk stranger grabbed her arms, or would have pushed her towards him and said something to her, mumbling to her chest. Eddie walked up to him, looked up at him, and asked him what he was doing. What do you think you're doing? Get your hands off of her. That's not right. She knew then that if he were her man, he would be loved. He was a man to be loved. She knows some men who wouldn't even have done that for their own girlfriends. One of her friends' boyfriends didn't do anything. When her friend said that the man at the bar grabbed her ass as he walked past her, he was too tired and he wanted to go home. He said, "Oh, come on, honey, not now. You're okay, right? Let's just forget about it. I've been telling you we should go home for the last hour anyway." But Eddie is not like that. He is not a man who is scared for his own body or of his own body. He is a man who still thinks there are some things worth fighting for. He knows the smaller body should be the one more easily frightened. It becomes even more fatigued with fear. He uses his body to protect, to love. As she was thanking him for defending her, she noticed his mouth. He had a hair lip when he was growing up, or when he was first born. She could see the scar. Perfect, she thought. I think he is beautiful, but he may not feel beautiful. He may want me to want him. he could imagine me. Thank you.
Thank you, Marream. That story blew us all away. Yeah. And man, I didn't know how lonely my face was until her face can't keep itself company. And after that, my face has been really alone. So thank you for that. That was a real gift, like to understand my body in a different way through your work. It's really beautiful.
Thank you for taking it and doing such amazing things with it.
Anytime. Thank you. Our next folks up are two people who've written a collaborative sequence. I'll introduce Maureen Seaton first, who's authored 22 poetry collections, both solo and collaborative. Recently, Undersea Jackleg Press 2021 and Sweet World Haven Carey Press 2019, which won the Florida Book Award. Maureen's honors include a Lambda Literary Award for lesbian memoir and also one for lesbian poetry. She is Professor Emerita of Creative Writing at the University of Miami. Her collaborator, Erin Smith, is the author of 5 books of poetry, all published by the Pitt Poetry Series. They are Blue on Blue Ground, winner of the Agnes Lynch Sterrett Prize, Appetite, Primer, The Book of Daniel, and most recently, just in February, Stop Lying. His work has appeared in such publications as Kenyon Review, Plowshares, and The Best American Poetry. He is an associate professor of creative writing at Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Maureen and Erin, I cannot wait to hear this. Please take it away.
Maureen, do you want to say anything about our project?
Oh, it was amazing.
We
What,
basically wrote back and forth. Yeah,
we wrote, was it about 6 months or was it only 3 or 4 months?
I think it was about 4.
Okay. Yeah, it was just kind of out of the blue and we just sent each other back and forth, and it was wild and it was really, really fun and I miss it.
And the whole collection's called Beautiful People. So we have different things there, like straight people, holy people, funny people. And the one we're reading here is an excerpt from Queer People, and it's sonnets. And I think I gave you the first line of yours. Maybe that's how we did it. We would write and give each other the first line of their sonnet. If I'm not mistaken, we did that some. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to say I love the landscape. I love landscape. So I don't know if that was Lindsay or who did that, but thank you so much for doing that. And it started out as a heroic crown. So there were 15. We were trying to do all these different forms and blow our minds, you know. And so we did 15 sonnets, which did blow our minds. But these are the best ones. And so we're going to read these 5, I think.
And the last one is a cento of other lines from the previous poem. So some of them will be there, some of them may not because they're another one. So I'm going to start it out. So Queer People. Earring Magic Ken has its own Wikipedia page, and apparently gay men bought the doll in droves. What wasn't to love? Blonde highlights, lavender mesh shirt, purple leather vest, earring in his left ear, and the circular charm on his necklace that everyone thought was a cock ring. Because of that, Mattel discontinued the doll and recalled him from stores. But Ken didn't have a cock, so he certainly didn't need to put a ring on it. Cue Beyonce, which makes me think how gay men love divas. Whitney, Britney, Cher, Mariah, Gaga, Madonna, Judy, Barbara, Liza, Donna, Diana, Dolly, Bette, Janet, Kylie, RuPaul, J-Hud, Dusty, Celine, Wonder Woman, and Bey, Avi. The Billy doll needed the cock ring. I wish I could sing.
When I'm sad, I sing in the car. When I'm happy, I sing and dance in my bedroom and hope no one hears me, or for that matter, sees me. My divas are Patty, Laura, Joni, Stevie, Sting, and Santana. That is my extremely short list, but my actual list is crazy long, so I will send you that by Sestina soon. I know gay men's divas are sacred in a slightly different way than mine, as I'm kind of a Mary Magdalene freak. Mary's Wikipedia page says she's had 7 demons driven right out of her, and I've had at least that many driven out of me or into me, depending. Much of my life has been spent restoring the demons that were batted out of the park along the way. For example, happiness, raucous laughter, lawless sonnets, and of course, sex.
The first time I came across a bunch of rowdy lesbians was at an outdoor wedding in Columbus, Ohio. It was long before marriage really counted, but those dykes didn't care. They were Buckeye dykes, swing state dykes, rowdy dykes, not dykes on bikes, but I'm sure they had some, and guns too. There were guys in skirts with purses, but it was all about the volleyball and sports bras. And when coolers needed moved full of queer beers, dykey cokes, lesy sodas, and gay-ass waters, the women carried them. Nobody asked the men or needed them. Of course, I know now women can do anything, duh. But I was young and from West Virginia, where men did the heavy shit and women didn't lift. There was no prince that day or fairy tale bullshit, just women and love and thirsty guests grabbing drinks from coolers.
Listen up, queers of the world. There's something I've been meaning to say, and yet here I am not saying it. And not only am I not saying the thing I've been meaning to say since, I don't know, first grade, but I am also deciding not to say it in a sonnet, which is not a real sonnet because I've decided that no one can say how to say it. Even the first sonnet maker whose name eludes me or seduces me. Either way, I am simply a person whose fingers are moving fast, like really too fast, I'm pretty sure. Since I could use a break or break a finger, although notice I just skipped a line, maybe the sonnet broke a stanza. The thing I am not saying, and I have 3 more lines not to say it, approaches from the left, riding along my peripheral vision like a revelation that will thunder noisily through my neighborhood and park in front of my house in an old blue truck with the dilapidated giddy sign, I love you.
Here's the scoop for anyone who cares to know.
Lately, there's nothing I crave more than an unexpected,
charismatic, pre-feminist theory lover of good old
women in love and thirsty guests grabbing drinks from coolers.
Crazy, isn't it? How somewhere right now, another queer
I was sleeping with thought I was crazy. Saint Michael, I am.
When I'm sad, I sing in the car. When I'm happy,
I find myself winded, thinking of Ginsberg's American breath-filled lines, tipping the page nearly.
saying the things I've been meaning to say since I don't know.
The first time I came across a bunch of rowdy lesbians.
Running from side to side before you on the page like.
Before you know it, you'll be up late talking to yourself.
In an old blue truck with a dilapidated giddy sign, I love you.
My favorite queer story begins with a lie and ends with one.
Wow. What energy you guys get into a sonnet together, the way your voices meld. I love that we got to hear that melding at the end.
So much.
Thank you so much for restoring the demons to the sonnet, to us, to poetry. Thank you both very, very much.
And thank you for our first collaborative publication. We published individual
right,
things, but
yeah.
that's the first one, both of our names together in the journal. So thank you.
Thanks, James and everybody.
Our
Thank you.
pleasure, of course, of course. And our finale reader tonight is Julie Marie Wade, who teaches in the creative writing program at Florida International University in Miami. She writes poetry, prose, and hybrid forms, including the forthcoming Fugue, an oral history. Let me really emphasize that. That is going to be published from Diagram New Michigan Press in 2023. Also, Meditation 40, The Honesty Room, is coming from Pink Books this year. And that book will include the essay that Julie will read. I can also recommend a collaborative book that Julie wrote with Brenda Miller called Telephone. I've gotten the essay or the book's title correct, right, Julie? And that won the Cleveland State Poetry Center Essay Collection Award, which surely needs a shorter name for it. I think we should call it the Wade Award. Anyway, please welcome to the mic, Julie Marie Wade.
Thank you, James. One of my favorite Libras of all time, as is Maureen. And thank you, everybody, for coming. And it was a joy to hear you all read. This is Alleluia from the Honesty Room, Meditation 40, the Honesty Room. I know there are inclusive churches now. I know I could have even been married in one. There is talk of healing old wounds, of queer people crossing thresholds into places that once rejected them. There are rumors of peace and joy. A colleague with a gay daughter invites me to come to her church, to bring my partner Angie with me. She sings in the choir and finds the fellowship affirming. So many good, open-minded people. Aren't I a good, open-minded person too? I like singing, I like candles, I like donut holes with coffee and spaghetti dinners with that buttered garlic bread we never eat at home. I'm pro-peace, pro-joy, but I can't help wondering about faith. Where does faith fit inside this new paradigm of inclusivity? During my 20s, I worked for Robin, a mad scientist at Carnegie Mellon, answering his emails and taking dictation. I loved him for and in spite of his eccentricities. Robin was a self-professed atheist, as was his spouse Mary, yet they attended a Unitarian Universalist church on Sundays. Today, the church's website reads, "We are a loving, open-minded, welcoming spiritual community, guided not by creeds or dogma, but by the free and responsible search for truth and meaning." Like graduate school, I'm thinking, or certain book groups, like writing and teaching, meeting with students, literary readings, and interviews about my work. Isn't this all part of a free and responsible search for truth and meaning? If not, then what am I doing with my life? One day, Robin told me, exasperated, that he and Mary had stopped attending the UUC. "But you were so involved," I exclaimed. My surprise must have registered as protest. Robin's glasses slipped further down his nose as he said, not a trace of irony in his tone, "They were getting too religious for us." Church, God, religion, the connections seemed inextricable to me. When Robin complained about his church forcing God down his throat, it was hard for me to hold my tongue. Imagine a church being all fired up about God. Angie and I laughed at home just thinking of those damn religious churches. But clearly my colleague Carmela, who invited me to Episcopal worship, does believe in God. She also believes in feminism, anti-racist activism, and LGBTQ rights. These are the values we share. Not just Carmela, but others too, hasten to inform me how accepting their churches are, which I understand is a euphemism for not queer hating, not queer fearing. In other words, no one there is going to try to pray my gay away. But they are going to pray, aren't they? To a gender-neutral, benevolent God who condemns misogyny and xenophobia in all their forms. I am no theologian, no expert in eschatology. I like the concept of this God, but I lack faith in their actual existence, which is also to say the word spiritual means nothing to me. When it is spoken aloud, I hear only the prairie wind howling, that one night in Nebraska with all our windows rolled down, purview to an unmistakable void. This open and empty in me, this open that is made of empty, forged of necessity, this caesura I call survival. Or to put it plainly, which is Angie's way, I have no faith. Why is this so hard to tell all the well-meaning people in my life? I'm glad you find peace and joy in your religious practice. I'm glad your church is kinder, more enlightened than the churches of my youth. I know you think I'm scarred by the homophobia in my past, the hatred fueled by Christians I have known, the cruelty directed at me after I came out. The truth is, of course I am. Of course I am. Please don't ask me to retrace those first tender footsteps through the briar patch. Today I'm scrolling through the pull-down menu in my chart, a registration tool the new doctor uses to get to know her patients better. Here I can name my gender, my sexual orientation, even my religion in any number of non-binary ways. Today, this menu serves in lieu of answered prayers. I choose woman and then gay instead of lesbian because I prefer the happy connotation of the word. I am, generally speaking, a happy gay. Religion has more options than any other category. I pause on agnostic, my cursor fluttering. I pause again on choose not to answer, on not religious, and then again on other. But something impels me to keep scrolling to the bottom of the screen where I find this wonder of a phrase. And how had I ever forgotten it? Secular humanist. A comprehensive, non-religious life stance that seeks the greater good through human reason, compassion, and common sense, rather than faith, mysticism, or dogma. This gay woman is a secular humanist, I say. To myself and to anyone else who might be listening, I smile and nod my head, alleluia to that. Remind me again, what is the difference between saying and praying? Alleluia, and then amen.
Listening to your work, Julie, I don't know the difference between saying and praying. It's really just beautiful lyricism. And thank you for giving us your work and trusting us with it too. It's lovely to start with Caesura and end with Caesura as well. And so before I thank everyone, I'm sure Amber will put in again the chat for if you'd like to subscribe to Cherry Tree. We offer 1-year subscriptions and 2-year subscriptions. Those are single issues and 50% off for new and extended subscriptions if you'd like to support Cherry Tree. And our fabulous writers. We give everything we give to writers. So thank you, all of you, for your work. And I hope that we'll see, well, you all maybe in issue 11, because we do ask current contributors to wait 1 cycle before sending us your fabulosity, just so we want to, hold the door for other people to come into. But issue 10 will open for submissions on August 1st. Our cover artist is the Baltimore-based, but now showing in all of the galleries in New York, Alex Merritt, who is actually I think he's painting something new for the cover, which is very interesting. And that is not something I asked Alex to do, but he, I think, is doing that kind of thing. And it'll be our 10th issue, which means we've been around for 10 years. And it's nice to celebrate that. We love the kind of community that words can make with each other. So thank you for being in community with us. It really is our pleasure. Oh no, there's another Claire Bateman that's our intern that did that. Dante is gonna hear me. No, it's fine. But thank you, Claire, for letting us know so we can correct the record.
It happens all the time. It's not their fault.
I listen, there's a writer named James W. Hall, as Julie knows, because she works with him. And every time I give a reading, here comes somebody with a bag full of James W. Hall books, sci-fi, and I have to break their hearts. So I should just start signing them. You are my favorite reader anyway. So thank you all for being my favorite readers tonight. And always thank you for reading literature. Thank you for writing it. It really is going to save us, I think. Good night, everyone. Thank you for being here.